Good evening, and welcome to our 2030 midterm election coverage. This evening, we'll be covering the 2030 midterms under President Ron DeSantis, whose approval rating has fallen in the recent months. We'll also be seeing the Democrats can retake both the Senate, House, and governors, and see if any rising stars in the Democratic Party will be up to challenge President Ron DeSantis in 2032. Now, the Democratic Party's popularity rating is actually at a net plus 5%, which is pretty good for them. Currently, of course, Democrats approve of the party, that makes sense. Republicans have a higher favorability rating than usual, with them about 15%, and independents are actually approving the Democrats more than usual. Meanwhile, President Ron DeSantis is at a net 12% disapproval, 42% approve, 54% do not approve. As you can see, his approval rating with independents is especially low, and with Democrats. Now, here is CNN's Senate map projection, what they think the election will look like. They think that the Democrats will retake the Senate, winning pretty much all of the toss-up seats, 51 to 49. Meanwhile, Fox News has the Republicans retaining the Senate, 54 seats to 46 seats. They have Democrats making no new gains, and Republicans flipping the seat of Florida, which is currently held by a Democrat. Meanwhile, MSNBC also has Democrats retaking the Senate, but what's interesting about their map is that they have a lot of seats going to the Democrats by large margins than CNN does, for example, Florida being likely, Kansas and Montana being lean, and along with Texas. And Newsmax has Republicans winning 62 seats to Democrats' 38 seats. We do not believe this is likely at all. Even states like Minnesota are tilt R, and Maine, along with Virginia being tilt T. We do not think this is going to happen. We'd be very surprised if it does. And here is the current polling map. All the states that are considered competitive are in yellow. So currently, Republicans have a very strong lead, 49 seats, not including any toss-ups, and 43 for the Democrats. The Democrats have to win almost all of the toss-up seats to win the Senate, so definitely an uphill battle for them. So here's some polling. As you can see in the Florida Senate race, incumbent Senator Anna Eskamani is facing a challenge from former Representative David Jolly. Jolly is a former independent, and his anti-Trump stances have hurt him a lot with rural voters, so we don't think he's a super strong candidate in this election. Currently in Kansas, we're seeing a rematch of the 2018 gubernatorial election. Now, this midterm has been compared a lot to 2018, and you might see why later on. But since the environment is so Democratic, we could see Laura Kelly potentially taking it here. She is leading in the polls, and Christopher Bullock is still very unpopular in Kansas. In Michigan, it is Gretchen Whitmer who primaried Rashida Tlaib from the center of the Democratic Party to oust her from her Senate seat, and is now facing Steven Crowder, a conservative commentator. Meanwhile, in Missouri, Jason Kander is running against Eric Greshens. This race is far closer than usual. Greshens leads by about 1% so far, and his scandals have come back to haunt him. Jason Kander is definitely one of the better Democratic candidates in the Missouri bench, so we'll see how well he does. And in Montana, Bullock, former Secretary of the Interior, is coming back to politics in Montana, trying to oust Senator Matt Rosendale. He is about 2% behind in the polls. We'll see how this shapes out. And in Ohio, Amy Acton, about 2% behind Josh Mandel. And in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro leading Sean Parnell by about 1.5%. Both these are very good candidates for both parties, so we'll see how this race ends up. And in Texas, Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz creating a rematch of the 2018 Texas Senate race. Cruz leads by about 0.1%. In Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin leads Scott Walker by about 1%. And here is the CNN governor's map. They have the Democrats taking back the National Governors Association, 28 seats to 22. And for Fox News, they have it tied 25-25. Democrats picking up a few seats. And from MSNBC, they have Democrats winning 30 seats to 20 seats. And this seems pretty unlikely. They have states like Kansas flipping, and Alaska of all places. Meanwhile, Newsmax has 33 for the Republicans, 17 for the Democrats. Definitely a very favorable map to the Republicans, and we doubt this will happen, along with the MSNBC map. So here is our polling map. Republicans have a slight lead, 22 safe seats or likely seats. Meanwhile, Democrats have 21. In polling, we can show that Ruben Gallego is leading Carrie Lake, the candidate on the GOP side, by about just under 1%. Meanwhile, in Florida, Stephanie Murphy is trailing Adam Putnam by about 1.5%. And in Georgia, Raphael Warnock is leading Marjorie Taylor Greene by almost 3 points. And in Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin is leading Ronna Romney McDaniel, the former chair of the RNC, by about 1%. And in Pennsylvania, Connor Lamb is running to succeed Josh Shapiro. He's currently leading Donald Trump Jr. by about 2%. And in Texas, independent actor Matthew McConaughey, who was endorsed by the Democrats, is currently 0.3% behind Greg Abbott. McConaughey, of course, as I mentioned earlier, endorsed by the Democrats, a very good candidate with very high name recognition. And in Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes is currently trailing Brian Steele, who you saw earlier as the chair of the National Governors Association as the Republican leader, and Barnes is trailing him by about 0.4%. Now, the most important issues according to Pew Research. 55% of Americans say the Iran war is the most important issue, 25% say the economy, 10% say climate change, 5% say racial justice, and 5% say another issue. And now we have finally come to our 7 p.m. poll closings. We can project the Indiana Senate seat will easily go to Mike Braun, and in Virginia, Tim Kaine will easily win re-election. In Vermont, Becca Balint will win their first term. And in South Carolina, Alan Wilson will ascend to the governor's seat. And in Vermont, TJ Donovan will win his first term as governor of Vermont. And in Georgia, too close to call, Raphael Warnock has forged the early lead. And here's a current Senate map, 42 seats for the Republicans and 28 for the Democrats. Meanwhile, in the governor's race, it is 10 for the Republicans, 6 for the Democrats. One state is too close to call. And we were 7:30 p.m. poll closings. We can project West Virginia's Senate seat will easily go to Evan Jenkins. And in Ohio, Josh Mandel has a very big early lead. We'll see how this holds up as more votes come in. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance, outperforming Josh Mandel by very large margins, he will ascend to the governorship of the state. And in the Senate map, we can project that the Republicans will gain 1 seat, 43, and Democrats remain at 28. And the governor's map, 11 now for the Republicans, still 6 for the Democrats. And our 8 p.m. poll closings out of a very large batch of states. And Roger Wicker will still win re-election to the United States Senate. He's one of the oldest senators still remaining, but he will still win election. And in Tennessee, this should be Marsha Blackburn, will win re-election. And in Connecticut, Chris Murphy, one of the longer-serving senators, once considered a rising star, now more of an institution Democratic Party, he will win re-election. And in Delaware, Lisa Rochester will win her first term in the United States Senate. And in Maine, Jared Golden will easily win re-election, one of the most popular senators in the country. And in Maryland, Ben Jealous will ascend to the Senate seat. And in Massachusetts, Joe Kennedy III will replace Elizabeth Warren as his Massachusetts senator. He's leaving his post as Massachusetts governor to now head to the Senate in his political comeback. Joe Kennedy is mentioned as one of the most possible contenders to Ron DeSantis in 2032, very popular across the country. And in New Jersey, Andy Kim, another Democratic rising star, he will easily win re-election in the state of New Jersey. And in Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse, a long-serving member of the United States Senate, he will continue his time in Congress. And in Florida, Anna Eskamani has a 15% lead over David Jolly so far. And in Missouri, Jason Kander is trailing Eric Greshams by about 5%. And in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro easily trouncing Sean Parnell with the current amount of votes in. In Alabama, Will Ainsworth will win election to the governor's seat. And in Oklahoma, Todd Lamb will win election to his governor's seat. And in Tennessee, Trey Hargett will become the next governor of Tennessee. And in Connecticut, we can project Edward Kennedy, a member of the Kennedy family itself, will win his first term as Connecticut governor. And we can project Sherry Bustos will win election to her first term as Illinois governor. And we can also project that Sarah Gideon will make her political comeback in Maine after losing to Stan Collins 10 years ago. Senate seat, she will now become the governor of Maine. And in Maryland, John King will become governor of this state. And in Massachusetts, Michelle Wu, another rising star in the Democratic Party, she will replace Joe Kennedy III as Massachusetts governor. And in New Hampshire, Joyce Craig will easily win re-election. And in Rhode Island, Matt Brown will win his first term as governor. In Florida, Stephanie Murphy, trailing Anna Eskamani actually, currently leads Adam Putnam by about 12%. In Pennsylvania, Connor Lamb doing very well against Donald Trump Jr. Both these candidates are pretty much matching their Senate counterparts. And we now see that the Republicans have 45 seats and Democrats have 35. And we now have our governor map up, 14 seats for the Republicans, 13 for the Democrats. Now our poll closings out of Arkansas, which will easily go to the Republicans on the gubernatorial level. Tim Griffin will easily win election. And we now have our 9 p.m. poll closings out of a very, very large batch of states, including many key states to watch like Texas, Wisconsin, and Michigan. We can project that Don Bacon will win his first 6 years in the Senate from Nebraska. And in North Dakota, Kevin Cramer will win re-election. And in Wyoming, John Barraza will win election to the Senate. And in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, Democratic Senate leader, now attempting to become Senate Majority Leader, will win in a landslide. She's very popular in her home state. In New Mexico, Martin Heinrich will easily win re-election. And in New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, once a rising star, much like Chris Murphy, now more of a settled member of the party. One day she may become Majority Leader. We'll see what happens. In Kansas, Laura Kelly currently trails Chris Kobach. A lot of the votes are actually going to a third-party moderate conservative. In Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer easily leads Stephen Crowder. And in Texas, Beto O'Rourke is leading Ted Cruz. In Wisconsin, Scott Walker is currently leading Tammy Baldwin. And in Kansas, we can check that Republican rising star Jake LaTurner will win this seat. He's actually winning by a far larger margin than expected. You may have seen in a lot of the polling maps the state was likely. He's actually winning it by around 15%. And in Nebraska, Mike Hilgers will easily win election to the governorship. And in South Dakota, Dusty Johnson will become governor of South Dakota. In Wyoming, Liz Cheney will win election to the governorship. And in Colorado, Jonah Goose, another rising star in the Democratic Party, will win his first 4 years as Colorado governor. In Minnesota, Keith Ellison will also win his first 4 years as governor of Minnesota. And in New Mexico, Howie Morales will become governor of this state. In New York, Humaine Williams, also the next governor of New York. And in Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin leading Ronna Romney McDaniel by about 20%. In Texas, Matthew McConaughey actually outperforming Beto O'Rourke. He currently leads Greg Abbott by nearly 30 points. And in Wisconsin, Brian Steele easily leads Mandela Barnes, and actually he's outperforming Scott Walker, especially in the blue-collar areas, by about 6%. And here's the current Senate map. Republicans a mere 2 seats away from 50 seats, which would give them the majority. Meanwhile, Democrats lagging behind to 38. As we mentioned earlier, the Democrats seriously have an uphill battle in this Senate race. And the governor maps 19 for the Republicans and 17 for the Democrats. We now have our 9 p.m. poll closings out of several western states. In Utah, John Huntsman will easily win re-election to the Senate. He replaced Mitt Romney back in 2024 as a more pro-Trump and populist candidate. In Nevada, Jackie Rosen, we can project this seat, even though it's a swing state that went to Ron DeSantis in 2028 already, as Jackie Rosen is very popular. In Arizona, it is too close to call between Katie Hobbs and Mike Brnovich. Hobbs primaried Kirsten Sinema, the senator from Arizona before her, from the left of the Democratic Party, and it might even win re-election by a larger margin than Sinema would. In Montana, Steve Bullock is leading Matt Rosendale. And in Iowa, Ashley Hinson, a rising star in the Republican Party, potentially a presidential contender in 2036 or 2040, has won election to the governorship. In Nevada, Stephen Horsford will win his first 4 years as Nevada governor. And in Arizona, Ruben Galgo easily leading Kerry Lake. And here's the current Senate map, 49 for the Republicans, 39 for the Democrats. And we now have our governor's map up. So, currently Republicans have the lead, but Democrats still have a few states uncalled that will likely go for them. Definitely a pathway for victory for both parties is possible this evening. And now we have our poll closings out of the Pacific Coast states at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And in California, Ro Khanna will easily win the Senate seat here, one of the most progressive members of the Senate. And in Hawaii, Josh Green will win election to his first 6 years as Hawaii Senator. And in Washington, Maria Cantwell will easily win re-election to another 6 years in office. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro will succeed Bob Casey and beat out Sean Parnell, winning a key seat for the Democrats across the Senate. Definitely a seat that Democrats tried really hard to retain, and they were able to do so with one of their best candidates, Josh Shapiro, winning election here. Meanwhile, Gretchen Whitmer will win election to the Michigan Senate. She's definitely far more centrist than their previous senator, Rashida Tlaib, but she will win by a larger margin than Tlaib did. And in Idaho, Russ Fulcher will win election to the Idaho governor seat. And in California, Katie Porter will win another 4 years as California governor. And in Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard will win her first 4 years as Hawaiian governor. And in Oregon, Lynn Peterson will become the next governor of Oregon. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. In Florida, Adam Putnam will beat out Stephanie Murphy. Democrats tried really hard to win this seat, but of course, Florida has trended to the right in recent years, and it has become far more difficult for them. In Pennsylvania, Conor Lamb, another very good candidate for the Democrats, he will beat out Donald Trump Jr. to become the next governor of Pennsylvania. And in the Senate, as you can see, the Republicans are currently at 49 seats, and the Democrats are coming up with 44 seats, definitely jumping up in their seat count. And for the governors, it is now tied 22-22. Only one state has left to have its polls closed, and that's their next state, Alaska. At 1 a.m., we can now project the state of Alaska will go to Joe Miller on the governor level, who will win by over 50%, meaning that there will not be any runoffs with ranked choice voting. Miller has been around in the state for a long time. This is the first time he has won elected office. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. In the Arizona Senate, Katie Hobbs has won this seat. She primaried Kirsten Sinema from the left and might have won by a larger margin than Sinema would have. She is now keeping a key Senate seat for the Democrats. And in Wisconsin, another key Senate seat, Tammy Baldwin will beat out Scott Walker, mainly on the backs of blue-collar support as opposed to Scott Walker's suburban support. A key seat for Democrats to retain, and they did. And we now have a county map for the Florida Senate race so far. Of course, it's not a final projection. Currently, Anna Eskamani leads by around 50,000 votes. And in the Kansas Senate seat, Chris Kobach is leading by about 66,000 votes over Laura Kelly. And in the Missouri Senate race, Jason Kander is actually leading right now by about 2,000 votes. And the Montana Senate race, 12,000 vote lead currently for Matt Rosendale. And in Ohio, 100,000 vote lead for Josh Mandel over Amy Acton so far. And in the Texas Senate race, a 50,000 vote lead for Beto O'Rourke over Ted Cruz. And here on our current Senate map, as you can see, Democrats have gained 2 more seats, now at 46 Senate seats, and Republicans are currently still at 49 seats. Definitely not good for them. In Arizona, we can project the governor's seat to Ruben Gallego. And as you can see on our county map, he's doing very well in most of the traditional Democratic areas, and definitely doing very well in Maricopa County, pretty much the key county to win if anyone wants to win this state. He'll beat out Kari Lake by about 1.7%. And in the Georgia governor race, Raphael Warnock has 100,000 vote lead over Marjorie Taylor Greene. And in the Michigan governor race, we can show that Ronna McDaniel actually is leading Alyssa Slotkin so far by about 45,000 votes. And in the Texas governor race, Matthew McConaughey actually outperforming Beto O'Rourke. He leads by about 100,000 votes over Greg Abbott. And the Wisconsin governor race, Brian Steele actually leading by about 100,000 votes, despite Scott Walker losing to Tammy Baldwin. And on the governor map, we can now show that Democrats have 23 Senate seats and Republicans have 22. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. And we can project the Florida Senate race will go to Anna Eskamani, a key hold for Democrats. David Jolly was definitely a below average candidate for Republicans, not getting nearly as much rural support or Hispanic support from voters across the state. Anna Eskamani will triumph, and this may cement her place as a potential presidential candidate in 2032. We'll see how that goes, however. In In the Montana Senate race, Steve Bullock will win election, beating out Matt Rosendale. This is the first flip for Democrats so far, and a very big one at that. Not many people were expecting Bullock to win, and he will follow in Jon Tester's footsteps in making a comeback politically in Montana. In the Georgia governor race, no surprise here, really. Raphael Warnock has beaten out very radical Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene by about 3%. He's getting some of the highest numbers ever in the Atlanta suburbs and with rural minorities. This may be one of the biggest wins for Democrats with their coalition in Georgia in recent years. And in the Michigan governor race, Elise Stefanik has taken the lead over Ronna McDaniel, and we can now project that she will win by nearly 3% over the former RNC chair. On the Senate map, Republicans are still stuck at 49, just very close to victory. Of course, they only need 50 Senate seats to win, but Democrats are currently pulling up real close at 47. And in the governor's map, the Democrats now have 25 seats. They only need to win one more seat to have control of the National Governors Association. Meanwhile, Republicans are at 23 seats. Only 2 states are still left to be called: Texas with Matthew McConaughey and Greg Abbott, and in Wisconsin with Brian Steele himself, of course the Republican leader for the governors, against Mandela Barnes. And we have a key race projection. Let's see what it is. We can either project who will win the governor's race or the House race, or the Senate races at large. It's not just a single race, this means the full Senate or governors. And we can project that Republicans will retain the United States Senate, a big loss for Democrats and a blow to how hard they campaigned this season. This definitely puts Ron DeSantis at a better place, as his agenda will likely get passed far easier with the Republican majority leader. This comes as Josh Mandel beats out Amy Acton in the Ohio Senate race, winning by about 7%, far larger than expected. This goes to show that Ohio really isn't competitive anymore, and Democrats really should abandon the state and stop campaigning there overall. Resources spent campaigning for Amy Acton really could have been put into other places that could have helped Democrats flip more competitive seats. In the Kansas Senate race, Chris Kobach's lead has shrunk down to 34,000 votes. This race keeps on getting closer. And in the Missouri Senate race, Jason Kander retains his 2,000 vote lead, but both candidates' vote totals at large have actually jumped up. And in Texas, Ted Cruz has retaken the lead with about 400,000 votes above Beto O'Rourke. He takes the lead in several more southern Hispanic counties, and also in Collin, Denton, and Tarrant counties, very suburban, college-educated counties. We'll see if Beto O'Rourke can retake the lead in these areas. More votes to come in. Meanwhile, Matthew McConaughey is still outperforming Beto O'Rourke. Greg Abbott only has a 55,000 vote lead over him, but of course McConaughey has fallen below Abbott as he lost a lot of his vote totals in both Denton and Collin counties and is narrowly almost losing Tarrant County. In the Wisconsin governor's race, Brian Steele's lead has shrunk down a lot, now only 37,000 votes. An interesting map here as Mandela Barnes is winning several very blue-collar counties, which we expect to change as the night goes on. And on the current Senate map, John Thune and the Republicans has 50 seats, and Amy Klobuchar and the Democrats have 47. Now, 50 is not an ideal majority. Republicans would definitely want to win the remaining seats, as with 50 votes, only one defecting Republican could stall a bill. So they're definitely trying to win more of these seats in Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. Meanwhile, for the governors, the map has stayed the same, so nothing to discuss here. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. It might be one of many of the key races we have still up for grabs. We can project that Laura Kelly will win in the Kansas Senate race, one of the most hotly contested races of this election cycle. Her win here fuels hopes for Democrats that they can one day win Kansas even on a presidential level. She'll do very well in some counties that were not even close about 10 years ago. For example, Sedgwick County, home of Wichita, which was about a likely Trump county back in 2020 and is now going to Laura Kelly. Meanwhile, on the Missouri Senate level, Democrats have lost this race. Jason Kander will lose to Eric Gresham. This is one more seat for Republicans to pad their majorities. Missouri is definitely closer than usual, and Jason Kander is far outperforming Jon Ossoff's performance in the state in 2028. However, Missouri has trended so far to the right, it is nearly impossible for a Democrat to win here. And in the Texas Senate race, Ted Cruz's lead has shrunk down to 100,000 votes. Beto O'Rourke is coming up fast, and he might be able to win this state in the end. Meanwhile, on the Senate level, there's only one state left to call, and that is Texas. However, Republicans have broken past 50 seats and now are at 51, but Democrats are currently at 48, so their Senate, they definitely haven't done poorly this evening so far. And we now have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. Into the Texas Senate race, we can project that Beto O'Rourke will win this Senate seat, taking back the lead in several suburban and Hispanic counties to beat out Ted Cruz. Beto O'Rourke is powering Democratic hopes of a blue Texas on the presidential level in the near future. And we now have a key race projection. Let's see what it is. Democrats will take control of the National Governors Association for the first time in nearly a decade. It's been a long dream of theirs, and they've had more trouble in the Governors Association than they have had in the Senate in recent years. But they will now win the governors and lose the Senate, interestingly enough. However, this is a big win, and a lot of these governors may become future presidential contenders in 2032, 2036, or even 2040. This comes as Matthew McConaughey, who may be an independent, but we're counting as a Democrat, beats out Greg Abbott by about 1%. He retook his leads in the suburban areas, the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, and also did very well in many of the Rio Grande Valley areas. McConaughey was a very good candidate, and he's beaten out Greg Abbott, flipping Texas to an independent for the first time in definitely a while, if that has even happened before, and becoming the first independent to win a race in a very long time. Meanwhile, Mandela Barnes will beat out Brian Steele in the closest state of this cycle. He will only win by about 1,000 votes. Merely 1,000 votes. His win is fueled by a minority turnout and support from the suburban areas around both Milwaukee and, of course, the other Madison, Wisconsin. So we now have the final Senate map, 51 seats for the Republicans, 49 for Democrats. Here are the margins, as you can see, but we will also show a county map. So this county map was made by your boy Alex, who has been very helpful with my channel recently, so thank you so much for helping out. But anyway, let's analyze this map a little bit. As you can see, in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar did very well in the rural areas, and as you can see also in Pennsylvania, you can see that, sorry about that, you can see that Josh Shapiro did very well in both the suburban areas and with some blue-collar voters. And of course, you can take a look at this map so we can compare it to the governor's race upcoming. So we now have the governor's map. Democrats, of course, won this. Here we can see that that Democrats had a few key flips. For example, Wisconsin and of course Texas. And we now have our county map up. This was also made by your boy Alex. So as you can see, Stephanie Murphy underperformed Anna Eskamani in Florida, of course, but this was mainly because of suburban areas like St. Lucie County and Duval County, which both flipped red, and Miami-Dade County going to her by a far lesser margin than Eskamani. Another interesting race, Keith Ellison did far worse than Amy Klobuchar in the rural areas, yet still won by a pretty large margin. And of course in New Hampshire, Joyce Craig, very popular in the state, won by a very large margin. And now we have our House map up. Now Hakeem Jeffries will become Speaker of the House. He was really, he led the Democrats to a very embarrassing loss back in 2028, but he's now redeemed himself with a new campaigning strategy. Democrats retook almost all of the seats they lost back in 2028 and then gained some. As you can see, they won a lot back in Nevada, Arizona, Texas, of course, with some suburban seats. Some were majority Hispanic seats. They also won 2 House seats in Iowa for the first time in a very long time. So here we can see some of our exit polls. So interestingly enough, male voters across the country were actually about 1% towards Democrats. Usually men vote by a pretty large margin towards the Republicans, so this shows that they definitely shifted to the left in this certain election. We'll see if this holds up in 2032 and beyond. As expected, female voters also went to the Democrats by a pretty large margin, and another not very much of a surprise here, white voters went to the Republicans by about 10% as usual. However, black and Hispanic voters went by pretty large margins to the Democrats. Hispanic voters shifted to the left compared to 2028 and went to they were surprisingly close. Meanwhile, voters labeled in the other category split by about 12% towards the Democrats. And now with our age and college degree exit polls, these are some of the most interesting to look at, in fact. 18 to 29 voters, many of the younger ones, voted by pretty large margins to Democrats. It narrows up as you go on, as you can see. 30 to 44 went by about 15% to the Democrats, and 45 to 64 went by about 3%. Meanwhile, 65 and over went by about 6% to the GOP. And voters with a college degree went 17% for Democrats, showing that they have shifted left by a very large margin over time. These are once pretty solidly Republican voters. Meanwhile, voters with no college degree voted by about 7% for the Republicans. For some comparison, a decade ago in 2020, these voters were practically evenly split, even with Donald Trump on the ballot. So these voters have definitely shifted to the right overall and are supporting the GOP by large margins. And finally, we have income and the situation polls. So basically, for people with an income less than $50,000, they voted about 13% for the Democrats. Voters with $50,000 to $100,000 in income voted by about 15% for the Democrats. And voters with $100,000 plus dollars in income voted by about 12% for the Republicans. And now voters were asked if their situation was better than the Ossoff administration or worse. So voters said the situation was better under DeSantis than Ossoff, voted by a very large margin for the Republicans. Voters said the opposite, voted by about 70 points for the Democrats, and those who said the situation was the same voted by about 8% for Democrats, showing that Democrats definitely had the national mood on their side, and more voters were willing to vote for Democrats than they usually would, despite their situation being better or worse. And now, Democrats are celebrating their landslide win. As you can see, Senate Minority Leader Amy Klobuchar is currently celebrating. She was nearly Senate Majority Leader and came within 2 seats of doing so. So, Klobuchar definitely celebrating here, and President Ron DeSantis is soon to speak on this landslide loss in a press conference tomorrow. He is expected to reveal maybe some new strategies for the GOP to help avoid something like this in the future, as Republicans look forward to 2032. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content such as this or any of my other videos on my channel. You can also leave a comment telling me what you thought of the video. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.